Good evening. I'm Margaret Ikeda. I'm an adjunct professor here at CCA, and I'm teaching a comprehensive building design studio this fall, which Hiroto just visited today. It's my honor to welcome Hiroto Kobayashi and Naomi Maki and their daughter Joanne. I met Naomi quite a few years ago when we were graduate students at UC Berkeley. So Hiroto Kobayashi and Naomi Maki live in Japan. And last year they were visiting researchers at UC Berkeley at the Center for Japanese Studies. At UC Berkeley, Hiroto's research focus was on the revitalization of urban and rural areas in Japan, and Naomi's research focus was on improving architecture education for children in Japan. They will be here for one more school year, and though Hiroto travels back and forth to Japan to teach and to work in their architecture office, we are fortunate during their short tenure in the Bay Area to have them join us tonight. Tonight, Hiroto will primarily be introducing us to research work with his students at Keio University, where he is a professor in the Graduate School of Media and Governance. He'll be showing us how a productive exchange is possible when academics and practice merge in the interest of a community. Hiroto Kobayashi studied architecture and urban design at Kyoto University and at the Harvard Graduate School of Design, GSD. He has worked with Nikken Seikei and Norman Foster and Partners as an architect. He completed his doctoral dissertation on the traditional Japanese community form Cho. And Cho is a unit of neighborhood organization in Japanese cities that has influenced everyday life of inhabitants in urban history. He received a Doctor of Design degree for this work from the GSD, where he served as a visiting associate through 2000 to 2003. Kobayashi is a founding partner of Kobayashi Maki Design Workshop, KMDW, in partnership with Naomi Maki. It's an architectural and urban design firm based in Tokyo. He also represents the American architectural firm Skidmore Owings and Merrill, SOM, in Japan. KMDW's work encompasses a full range of design scales, from furniture and interior design to large building complexes and urban design. Projects include work from cities and communities in Japan, China, Indonesia, Myanmar, Palau, and Peru. Most recently, KMDW and Kobayashi's laboratory at Keio University have been developing a design-build methodology using engineered wood. This approach was inspired and initiated by the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami disaster in 2011. So I want to welcome you tonight. Thank you.
Hi, Margaret. Thank you very much. I'm so honored and so excited to be here. And this is fantastic university. And then this afternoon, I joined the pinup of Margaret and Evan's studio. And I got many inspirations from the studio, and I just would like to come back again. Today, I would like to show some ideas about architecture, and which is, the title is this one. And always I've been sort of practicing architecture design for something like 25 years, and always thinking about how people behave in some space, and some space or place really how it affects to the people or people's behavior. So I'm interested in how she enjoyed this space. This is Myanmar's learning center, which we built. And so today, I would like to show you some ideas about this notion. And first of all, I would like to introduce KMDW. And KMDW pursues these issues, and it's a big issue. And we designed some commercial building or like office headquarters in China, or like a mountain house, or this one is the day center for with the disease of dementia. So this is it's important, all related to the people and then all related to the place. So these are mainly, of course, our work, and we are working with SOM, and today I was surprised that Craig Hartman, Mr. Craig Hartman is here, so I'm excited and I'm so scared. You know. So this is very exciting, you know, big project, and then really related to the city, for example, like Tokyo. But at the same time, I always feel some distance between the building and myself, or the distance between my idea and the product as the building as a product, because you know so many technologies are applied to build a building, and even designing things, we need a lot of technologies, and which actually I sometimes can't handle even, right? Then this cladding here is fantastic, but somehow I feel some distance. So of course it is very important to understand all the procedures and all the technologies and how to apply those technologies to make this happen. But at the same time, I just would like to feel much closer to the architecture. At the same time, maybe my client or the user of the building would like to feel the same way. Sometimes, they just are given the building, and thank you very much. But then after that, oh, this part is broken, and this part is, then claim, happens, and I am sorry, just I was intended to do this, but that happens because they don't feel that this building doesn't belong to him or her. So my feeling now is how to make that things like architecture and the users, or architecture and myself, how to make it closer. That's the big issue for me. So instead of introducing sort of a city project, I just would like to introduce some examples which happened after March 11th, 2011. That was really the first experience for me, which was scared me. And at the same time, as an architect, I just thought that, what I can do for the people and for the place. Then this one, we just call this one a veneer house, and then this is made in plywood. And we just started to think what kind of response we can make to the people of Tohoku area. And I think maybe I can show you some scenes. I took this one in May, just 2 months after the disaster, tsunami, and everything like this. It's devastated, and it's very shocking. This is that sort of a height of the tsunami, and then here is our site, but it's something like 20 meters, but this one like 40 meters, tsunami, and it's unbelievable. It's really high, and then destroyed everything. And some 20,000 people died or missing. So it's really hard, and then, Fukushima area is here. So a lot of issues still, remain, in Tohoku, and then nobody should forget this. I just want to show some video. This is Keisennuma, the second biggest city in Miyagi Prefecture. And there's a big ship here. And then it is really something like this. And then Keisennuma, the worst thing is not only just tsunami, but after that they had fire. So it's all burned. And so this experience really made some change in me. And this is the Keisennuma, and now the ship is being demolished, after like 2 years. Then we started to think how to respond to this issue. And in Miyagi Prefecture, I just found that Miyagi is a sort of a prefecture of trees. And their industry is a forestry, and then also fishing, and of course other, modern industry. But I found that many engineered wood manufacturers were located along the bay because they import wood and they export the product, right? So many companies are devastated by the tsunami. And just 2 months before the March 11th, I happened to be there to just have a meeting with one company here and to just develop some idea about non-flammable wood, this plywood or LVL, laminated vinyl lumber. So I just started to think how there are many issues. One issue is how to promote local industry. And of course, fishery is one, but at the same time, this engineered wood manufacturer, they just should be revitalized. That's why I just contact them, and then they just had some leftover plywood. So this one is some, a dark part is actually these boards are damaged by the tsunami. So tsunami damaged the plywood, and it's cheaper. So we just could get it. Then we started to think how to just make a sort of a building method for the people, not just a professional carpenter, but for the regular people to construct the building. Because after like 2-3 months, the carpenters are all just occupied. And we cannot wait. But if you wait, it takes like a half year to get the professional carpenter. So what we thought is maybe we can just create the method with which people really, just the regular people can construct. So our idea is to have a notch here, and then notch there, and then insert something like this one, And it's the easiest way. And then, of course, this is not my invention. This is such, like Charles Eames had a card, play card, to have like a house, card house. It's amazing, like a 30s. So I was very impressed. And of course, then this one I used the CNC router. But this the house, which actually I would like to show you from now, is just cut by hand. So first, encourage their local industry and to use the local wood. And also to establish or develop some method, building method, with which people can easily construct. And then plywood is actually very cheap, especially this one is very cheap. So easy, cheap, and local, that's a very important issue for me. So we started to do some experiment with students. And the students are very excited about this. And then we asked the local people to cut by hand. And then we started to make a mock-up. It's a one-on-one model. And we started to think if the building is being done, being used, after that we just assemble and then move somewhere else. So not just using glue, but we used a screw and to just be possible to just disassemble. So this is the way, but also this way possible. That's the strategy. And then we got a client. He is a guy, and he's something like 28 years old, and voluntarily he moved in this area and then would like to have a community space for the people. So we just worked together, and then these are all students. And then this is in the middle of January, February, and it's the coldest time, in Tohoku. So we just went in a weekend by bus, night bus, and then worked two days and then coming back by bus. It's a tough time. But really, students are excited because, they could really join the event with which people really can get some, sort of a peaceful place to get gathered. In this time, temporary housing are pretty much done, but they actually didn't have a community space. So we just thought that maybe community house the building by using the local wood and then local plywood, that would be good. So this is the first experiment is about 1,000 square feet, and the guys are working like this. It's very tough. Maybe he doesn't feel this what, here. And, this is the coldest time. And it took like 4 months, but half of the time basically stopped like this. So for like 2 months, maybe it took to construct. So it's quite fast. It's very dangerous sometimes with a helmet. I should have just told them, use a helmet. The safest part, I did, just painted. It's the safest one. I'm the oldest. I'm sorry. Oh, this one is some movie. Just you can see, how the building is constructed, and then basically we use like a 1.8 meter unit, which is like a 6 feet by 3 feet board, which is the most popular plywood in Japan. That's why we just connected 1, 2, 3, and then 4, like a boards, and then make a beam. And the length is 7.2 meters wide. Actually, it was too wide. That's why it's bent later. But then we put this beam. But we had to use some machine to put the beam. We originally thought that we can just build by hand. So we don't need any big machine, but eventually we found that we needed. Then we put all the structure here. It took something like a month to construct this one. Then we put the roof and then floor and some substructure to put the wall. But in this area, as I told you, it's very cold. That's why we had to put the insulation. And then we had to put another board. So it's a double layer, and it took some time to finish this one. And yeah, this great thing is insulation, right? And then we have a skylight here, and then get some lights. So then we put the tatami mat here because people can sit on the floor. That's the beauty of the Japanese building. And we use that bigger plywood to have a door, like 3 layers, and then put the polycarbonated, transparent stuff here. So, and then we put the terrace, and then we put the bench, and then basically we've done. This is the last day. Students are exhausted. But then interior is like this, and we just put some cloth here to have a sort of indirect light. But this is because some local people came, and then they said, "I'm sorry, but we don't want to see this dirty board because it's got damaged by tsunami." So I thought it was a very wonderful idea to use sort of that kind of wood, that kind of board, but they didn't want to see. So we sort of covered, and then but instead we have an indirect light, something like this. So, and then they started to use this, and then these are substructures. Becomes a shelf. I mean the bookshelf, and a lot of mangas and cartoons, stuff. I like this. It's more like very Japanese. Now eventually, finally, it became very Japanese. And another very Japanese style, smiling. But the thing is, we wanted to have more local people. But this time, people were so busy. And of course, sometimes they helped us. And this is the guy who is a sort of a carpenter. So he helped us a lot. But only one, and other all students, and then the guy here, and then this is the helper. So, but we found that students felt something like a bond to this building, and then of course to these people, right? And an attachment to this place. So we found that this is very important, to understand that not only just building a building and then pass it to somebody, but let people participate in, a constructing building. So that's what we just found. So the second one, Veneer House 2, which is Miami-hama in Ishinomaki City, actually is located also in Miyagi Prefecture, the same. And this is a fisherman's village, and 80% of the houses are all gone. But only one family died, and another 28 families are all alive. So it's sort of okay, but they lost all the facilities for fishery. So we were asked to build a community house and then storage for the people. And the client was AFH, Architecture for Humanity, and one director came to see the previous project, and then they asked us to design because I'm relatively cheap and relatively fast. So we, this time, got money. And the last one, actually, I collected money, from companies. Was tough thing. But this one, the sponsor, was an AFH. It's grateful. So we decided, okay, this time we should have an order. And then no sort of repetition. Basically, we just can build, in one way. These are our stuff, and then, discussing about the details. And then we decided to send one supervisor, but not students or not staffs, to construct. This time we asked the local fishermen to construct. So these are all fishermen. And they worked very hard because they usually went to sea, ocean, around 3 o'clock in the morning and come back around noon. But after that, they just have lunch and then start work until 5. So like 4 hours, then just go back and then sleep. So they work very hard, and then their teamwork is wonderful because then in a one ship, they work together, right? So they do not talk much, but they work very hard, and then they can really collaborate to each other. So, but instead, we just learned from the previous project that we need something more like showing the detail and order. So we made a manual like this. And then okay, this afternoon we have 1.5 hours, 4 people can construct this. And then these are the number of the kinds, and then we put the numbers B1, B2, and then assemble like this, and then make this. And this is the result. So even without supervisor, they can just work with this manual. So this is sort of a new invention for me. And it's like IKEA's furniture. So we just did other, the construction panel, and they are constructing, right? So it's smiling. And then they said, it's like a plastic model. It's easy, right? And it's, oh, nice, I felt very nice. Then they worked very hard on the roof, and then I just felt that, it's very dangerous. It's quite steep, right? But it's easy for them. Usually they just, walking on the ship and then sleepily and then moving. So this is stable. It's easy for them. So they worked very hard, and then this is the head of the team, but he did everything by cutting by himself. And then he doesn't tell a lot. He didn't talk a lot, but he actually worked very hard. And then everybody just followed him. Really fantastic experience. Then finally, March 24th this year, the building was completed. This part is a storage, and this part is a meeting room. And the finish is polycarbonated, transparent, corrugated panel. And structure is visible. I just wanted to show the structure. The structure is the most beautiful part. Then this is the interior. I'm sorry, color-wise, this color more vivid, but this one is a little bit brownish or greenish. But anyway, so we have some lights, coming in here, and then tatami mat. And then this one, we use the LVL, laminated veneer lumber, which is sliced, not just the surface of this, part, but just the piles of, boards and then sliced. Then you can have a beautiful pattern. This guy, Mr. Watanabe, this is the last day, it's a cleaning day. And then he just tried to clean, even at the corner, which is hidden, he used chopsticks, and then roll the handkerchief and then just clean up at the corner. So I was very touched because, he himself just is belonging to, or this building is belonging to him already. So this is the moment which actually I found that important thing is really participating, the event. That's the very important thing. And then one is because they, started to love this building, of course. And then they tried to maintain, well. At the same time, they constructed. That's why they know what part is weak and what part is strong, right? And then they know how to just, repair the building. So it's very important. And then this is the storage part, and then they put the God here. This is also very important. And this guy, Ultraman. It's called Ultraman. Maybe Japanese, animation, Ultraman is very important. This guy is a 7th generation or 8th generation. It's called the returning Ultraman. They came back from somewhere. But this guy was gone on the March 11th. But a year later, he came back to the beach. And really, he returned. So a little bit scary, but but they love this guy, and so they put this god here. So there are 2 gods here. And then this is the tatami mat, and then this is the flooring. And of course, it's all exposed. So some people say that this is ugly. This is plywood, right? But at the same time, if you make this building, you don't feel so. Oh, this is beautiful. So please just judge. You think it is ugly or it's beautiful. And this is the view from the gathering space to the ocean. So the ocean is very close. Of course, there is a question. We built a building where the former building was just drawn, gone. Is it right or not? So some people say that, oh, don't build anything here. It's dangerous, right? But some other people say that, okay, if something happens, we just, can escape. But by that time, I just would like to use this building for some purposes. So it's, I don't know, we can get another tsunami in a week or in 1,000 years. So our idea is to have at least some place for them. And then if it happens, maybe we can replace by a new one easily, in a sense. So still, it is a question, and I don't have any sort of a good answer. But for this project, I decided to build this one for the use, for sort of even a temporary use for them. This is the floor. Looks beautiful. Then this is the combination of tatami mat and then the flooring. This actually is thick enough as an insulation. It's this time 45 millimeter. 45 millimeter is like this. It's good enough for insulation. But if you want to have more, you can just slice thicker, and then you can have a better insulation. So you can control the thickness. And here's the exterior. You can see the structure. But the issue is we use the screw. And then this is LVL. So LVL has the same sort of layers of same directions, veneer sheets. And that's why we just nailed this direction. That's why it's fine, right? But if you nail this way, it doesn't work because it's layers of veneer. So it doesn't work. So the weakness of this building is like a T-joint like this. If you like to have a sort of a substructure here, and then would like to have a finish here, and if you like to connect these two, usually we nail here, right? But it doesn't work because this is. So we have to have a substructure here, and then nail this way, and then nail this way. So it's a little bit weak. So I recognize that that's the weakness of the building. We have to develop, about the joint, about the connection of the boards. So this is the happy moment, and everybody just drinks. And then he came from San Francisco, and this is our staff in German, and he really enjoyed the Japanese gathering and drinking sake. And I think already, I didn't tell anything about this building because this building has already that time, belonged to them. So I'm so happy that already this building was recognized as their sort of property. And sense of ownership is very important to build a building. As I first told you that some distance between architects and then the building. This building, I think maybe the distance is much closer. And also users or clients here, they are actually builders, So they really feel this building very close. So I think that kind of sort of way of building is sort of self-building build, DIY, do-it-yourself system is very important. And to do so, we have to have a very simple system to build a building. So we have to develop a little bit more to make it simpler. This is the final day, and then after the party, the mothers, just clean up, and they are so helpful. And especially in this area, mothers do not, go up and then drink together with men. The men, they just, instructed, they decided everything. But actually, I know that ladies controlled everything. That happens everywhere. My family too. Anyway, so that's very important. And so somebody is, working hard, and then also some people are supporting, and then both work very hard. So this is the last day. It's a very happy moment. I'm here. Thank you. And I found that, okay, this system, now we sort of invented with local veneer engineered wood company, and also with students and our staffs too. We sort of thought that maybe we can apply this idea to some other place. And almost at the same time, actually, I got some offer to build a learning center in Myanmar. And learning center is basically for kids. And this is totally unknown place for me, and I've never been to Myanmar, former Burma. And I did some field work and met many people there. And I found that the situation is totally different from Tohoku. In a sense, very similar, but in a sense, totally different. Yeah, other sense, totally different. Because this is now the country where really, growing up. So I think maybe in Japan, after the war, 1940s or 50s, the similar situation. And here's Yangon, the biggest city. But here's Patain is our sort of location. The site is located in this Patain. It's about 5 hours drive from Yangon, and it's not sort of a smooth road, and it's tough to go there. But our colleague of a university just introduced me to the local people, and we found that in Patain there is a village here, and this village is something like 1,000 people living, and 250 families. And the situation is something like this. The rainy season, something like 3-4 months in a year, is very heavy, rain. So it's all just drawn like this. And it's very tough, and in terms of sanitary, and also very difficult for them to live in this situation. And we just did some research in rainy season in September. And this type of house, usually like one family, like 3 generations live. Some like 6 or 7 people living, in this situation. And we started to draw first a map of the village. So we just checked every single family, every single house, and then take photo, and then made this map first. And it's quite, a beautiful grid pattern, because it was made some years ago because some big number of people moved from south to this place because they just got the 1 year hurricane, and then next year a big sort of drought. So they just gave up, farming there. So the village moved up and then started to live this area. So the government decided, okay, you guys, live here. So the government drew the line and then gave some plot. But then basically they built the house by themselves, that kind of house. And so situation is very tough. And we did some workshop with kids, and then we just asked, what kind of house you want to have or what you want to live in. And then yes, this guy, you know, kid draw this and this guy draw. I'm sorry, just you cannot recognize that there's some flower or a house or, but still, and also smiles, you know. So that's why, okay, you know, you have a dream. It's good. And then there are many kids there. But I just did some survey about dry season and then rainy season. Adults, you know, dry season, they work in the morning and in the afternoon, even night, right, as a farmer. But the rainy season, in the morning they usually work, but the afternoon or in the evening they do not work. They cannot work because it, you know, usually rains hard. And at the same time, kids, the dry season, they can just play. You know, first in the morning they go to school, but they can play outside, right, here. But at night, rainy season, they cannot play because it's outside. I mean, the raining. So we found that this time, it's a serious problem happening. It's a domestic violence, not home, happening because it's very tight, you know, small house. They live together. They cannot get out. Even they scream, you know, nobody can listen, you know, what's happening there because it's pouring, you know. So we found that maybe we need some place where people can escape, you know, or kids can go, at least this season, you know, this time. So we just discussed with the YMCA, local YMCA, and then we just decided to just build a learning center for kids. You know, like this, it's really fantastic. They're really smiling, and a lot of kids. So I really relieved that the kids are still, you know, still healthy. So just if we can prepare some place for them, you know, that would be fantastic. And then also, some doctors' team, every year, once a year, they go to this village from Japan, and then take care of kids, and then take care of disease, you know. So quite good if we have that kind of space. So we just do some research about local material, and this is bamboo, and it's bamboo. These ladies, you know, they don't use any grub. That's amazing, and I always a lot of sticks. You know, it's very dangerous, but they can handle. This is really amazing. It's a local product, and then you can have a big sort of a sheets of bamboo sort of sheets, and actually it's durable. Something like 8 years, 10 years. You know, you can use as an exterior wall. So we started to just started to, you know, think about the site, and then finally we got this site. And this is fantastic because it's located in front of the playground of the kids. And they play soccer and many things here. Of course, this is just a field, but they, you know, play here. So we just found a fantastic place just in front of this field. So we just sent money, and then YMCA bought the land here. Then we designed the house, and we just made a 1 to 10 model. I'm sorry, that's the metric system, but 1 to 10 is that scale, I think, right? Then we just pre-cut, you know, the piece, and then I just instructed, okay, guys, you know, how to construct the building. Insert this and this. This and this, but don't twist, you know, and you can break it, okay? But of course, I thought that kids will break many pieces, right? But nobody. This is very careful, like inserting and then making models, and so I was very impressed because really, you know, kids who listen to me, and then they really work very hard. You know, these are several teams, you know, and then of course, you know, this is interesting, like a triangle. And we didn't tell, you know, how to construct, but I just told them, you know, how to just insert and then make things. So they just got some image that about a house or about plane, or then they really enjoy how to, you know, use the elements. Then they just enjoyed making, you know, something, you know, and they actually are excited about, you know, having this tool. It's like a play. And, you know, many kids are really involved in making things, other than him. He's just looking at me. You know, he doesn't care about model. fine, but he maybe remembers something. You know? And then they started to build the real model. This is a 1 to 10. This is a structure model. So they just got to know how to make the building. So this is the completion of the model. And we had a foundation here, 2 meter high, because it's the flood comes, every year, right? So it's raised. And then this is the structure part. And then the boards are bought in Yangon. And then our friend cut by hand and then carried to this place by truck. But after that, we found that even in Patain, we could get the cheaper board, So I think maybe we can ask somebody, or we can do by myself, by cutting the boards. But unfortunately, in this village, actually, they didn't have electricity yet. That's why we couldn't use like a, machine, electrical machine. Then basically, we just used a hammer and also saw by hand. But the pre-cut was pretty good, so we didn't spend so much time to just amend some pieces. It's really good. Then from the next day, we I'm sorry, this is the drawings. Actually, we drew later, and then this is about 60 square meters, like 600 square feet. And basically, we just decided to use all boards, not the LVL, because it's a panel and it's easy to get. So from the next day, really kids help us, to construct. And then like 12 years old and 11 years old, and they are very serious about constructing. And they know how to construct, because this is 10 times as big as their model. So they know how to. So they're really excited to just, okay, next what to do, right? And some guy just hammering like this, and he did better than I did. Really, and then he just always, father told me how to do. So it's really, already he got a good education from his father. And he is the structure engineer from Japan, working as a worker. And these are all students. And this is the first beam we put. So this time, actually, we used like a 8-foot board. It's a longer one. It's much popular in Myanmar and also in the States. So in Japan, we usually like a 3 by 6 feet. But other than Japan, we usually use like a 4 by 8 board. Then put some structure for the floor. Then this is a week later after we started. This foundation was done. I came before, and then I just constructed with the local contractor. But then after that, we started to construct this one in a week. So it's quite fast. And because this time we decided to repeat the same system here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the kinds of board, number of the kinds of board is 50. This one is 48. But the one before, the Venue House 2, is 50 something 1 or 2. And then the first one is more than 100. So we just made many mistakes for the first one, because it's very similar, but it's different. So we tried to minimize the number of boards. So this one is, the main structure is 21, and substructure is 27. So still, we have to develop more to decrease the number. It's a happy moment, and already some attachment, This is our students. These are local girls. This is my students and local girls, and it's a very close relationship. It's very nice. Oh, she started to study already, even before completion, the learning center. But the boys, just to play. That's the structure. So, ladies are very, very hard worker. Then we started to make the doors, and we put the window. Then finally, we put the exterior wall. This is the bamboo mesh, bamboo board and sheet. And we don't need any insulation. That's why it's much faster. Then, like our students, I'm excited about making windows. Yeah, this is the last day. It's completion. So finally, we completed this building into within 3 weeks. So it's very fast. And then 3 weeks, actually, students are stuck, in this place. Then they couldn't escape. So they worked very hard from the morning to the evening. So the happy moment. So she, visited many, many times to the site. And really, I feel that she really thinks that this building is mine. That's very important. This is mine. This window is mine. So this is the very low window here for kids and for adults and for ventilation. So we just made many, many windows. Here's the doors and then terrace. Right. So and then because there's water comes up, so we just have a bridge to the street. So anytime kids can come this way. Some interior, and then we put the bamboo mesh again as a ceiling because this is very hot. We put the tin roof, and it becomes very, very hot. So we just keep some distance, in between the ceiling and the roof, and then some ventilation. This is, is always opening. That these are the windows. Right. So a lot of windows, and to get lights, and also to get wind. You can see some gaps and then some. So it's nice to have wind, and but the rainy season you have a very heavy rain, so you need any sort of exterior wall. Then final day, they just really kindly set up some ceremony, for us, and then for kids. And over 50 kids gathered, and then they just think, okay, this is our place. So it's an important moment because they just have the place where they can study and they can play. Can you see? Tons of people are here. We didn't expect this much, so it's a little bit bad. I was a bit scared. I was here, but I just step up and then don't touch. Oh, don't move. And then this one next day is a return, to stray. So I was relieved, and then this was the last moment, like more than 50 people just on the terrace. Okay, so this is the last day, and then the guy came again, and we closed and just passed the key to the local YMC and then local people. And at that time, I just found that the meaning of just passing the key is a ceremonial thing, but I feel totally different feeling compared with the former projects. Because I myself went there, and then I myself was involved in construction. And I know all the details and also work together with students and local people. So that kind of sense of ownership is very important for myself and then for the users. So I just changed a little bit the topic. This is Ise Shrine. Is the one of the oldest shrine in Japan. And Ise Shrine, this year is a very important year because every 20 years they rebuilt, and then they are replaced by a new one. That means this was built, at some moment, for example, like this year. And then 20 years later, this will be demolished. But then the new one is built next to it. So this is 20 years old, and this is brand new, right? So every 20 years, they just replaced by new one, and then new one, and a new one. And it continues 1,300 years. So the reasons it's a mystery, but we just studied about this when I was a student. The reason is to convey the tectonics of the building, of that time. It's conveyed to present day, because every 20 years they did exactly the same thing. So the building itself is new, but the spirits and also techniques, are carried to the next generation. And then if you have 20 years, like a usual carpenter lives more than 60 years. So at least twice the carpenters, can experience this rebuilt stuff. So really they can understand what's happening here. Right? So this is very Japanese, I feel. Of course, it's a shrine. It's a shrine, so it's Shintoism. Of course, it's very Japanese, but at the same time, in Japan, the physical stuff, like physical entity itself, we don't care. But more like a spirits or like a techniques, should be conveyed to the next generation. So the building itself is new, but the spirits and then also tectonics, techniques, are just a very old and then conveyed to the next generation. It's very sustainable. And then also, I just found that only 20 years, because it's very expensive, right? But then I found that after demolishing these buildings, these woods can be used for other buildings in other shrine for other 20 years. Then after that, again, use another 20 years. So total 60 years, they use one tree. So it's a very sustainable system, and then I was very surprised. So this time, and also there's no nail, like a steel nail they don't use, just that they use only wood. So we just started to think, how they make this kind of stuff. And this is the joint, sort of wood joint, which Japanese people invented. And this one is 12th century, sorry. It's about 900 years ago. And this is a very intricate, very complicated detail. It's like an L-shape, joint. And then they just connect this one, and then finally they put some wedge, and then connect. So we found that this is a very clever way, and then we have a tradition. That's why maybe we can just get rid of the nails or screws, Then maybe we can just make joints without any nail. If so, we can really reuse the parts, and we can just have better joints. For example, like this joint or this joint. This one, for example, this one is an old sort of, from old books. So there are many ways to connect this way, or like a beam. So there are two things, like a perpendicular connection and then like a parallel connection, and then the same surface. And I just started to think and before that, and then the professional carpenters, they use these tools. So what's the difference between this and this? But we really don't understand why they need this, but at least they use these to carve, the joint. And of course, it's a wonderful professional work, but we cannot do that. So we started to think, how to make an easy joint, like, traditional Japanese joint. Then we started to think like a three-dimensional way, like this, and then this. This is the way. This is one thing, but actually we just invented this way. So if I just wanted to make this plywood, but we couldn't find any router to make this, so we have to figure out how to make this. But if we can make this, it's very sophisticated, because once you insert, then you can pull. So for the tension, it's very strong. So and then you just put something here to stop pulling. So I just think that maybe we can apply some traditional way of making joint. We can apply that kind of technology to plywood. If so, we can just go forward for making a better house. Then this is the new project. This one is for the people who needed a house, which is 2 persons can construct 20 square meters, and then 200 minutes. This is actually very short. And then $2,000. So thank you. And actually, this model is that model. This is about $2,000. I'm sorry, $2,000 and 20 square meters. Maybe it's very dark, but this is 1 to 10. So this is something like 3 meters, and this is about 2 meters. And we tried to make the numbers of the kinds of boards minimum. So just in this case, we just, this one is wrong. I'm sorry, so just go on. But basically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. So this building is made of 8 pieces, 8 kinds of boards. And it's very simple because basically this piece, I think maybe I can show. I'm sorry, this is just it's all going, but the one piece here, A, and A, and an A. And then here, and here. So this shape made of like 3 kinds of pieces. And then just repeat it, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And this time we decided not to make column and then beam because, okay, column and beam, it works pretty well, but in the column, just a vacant void we cannot use. So we decided to make just a flat, structure, and then just connected by the boards. So basically the boards, one kind. So floor, ceiling, and then wall, one kind. And then we tried to make cut the board as effective as possible. But we still have some left over here. So we just now thinking to make some furniture for the house. Then total, like this piece, like 20, 30 pieces. Then this board is like 6 boards. So we just cut like this. We use a laser cutter this time. And then we started to construct like this. So this joint should be like this. So then also we use the similar system, notch and then insert the similar system here. Oh, the supervisor appeared. Then the amount, this is like, yeah. And then here, another joint is to support the floor. So one piece here and then one piece here integrated like this. Then make and then we put the board, so we don't need any nail to make this stiff. I'm sorry, just not constructing, but always instructing, And I put the beam. This is actually lighter, so I think maybe 2 guys, can just hand like this time. Then put the floor here, right? Then finally, we put the, what the difference? Sorry, okay, support here, right? Because this is the joint, so we put this board to just make it fixed. Then we put the board on the wall. So finally, so this is the basically we designed this one for the people in Myanmar. Still, like $2,000 is very expensive for them. But I just learned from one housing company in Japan, which is they invented this type of small house made in steel in 1959. And then at that time, the house was sold in department store. And it's about 10 square meters. And then it's about, nearly $11,000 at that time. That is very expensive at that time. So I was very impressed because 1950s, the Japanese company made that kind of prefabricated house already. And it was sold. And then at that time, just after the war, many, land is vacant, and then still like people, started to buy the house. So I just would like to make this one and would like to just promote sort of a housing for the Myanmar people. But I don't know if these days it's easy to just have a CNC router and also engineer wood because they have concrete buildings, so they have plywood there. Okay, lastly, just would like to show you some more technologies about wood, which is a non-flammable wood technology. And this was invented by an engineer some 10 years ago. And I just worked with them to just do some experiments. And the system is very easy, sort of a silicone stuff. It's a very small thing. It's sort of melted in water and then with pressure. And in the kiln, it's sort of absorbed, you know. Then if there is a fire here, the heat here, that chemical becomes like a glass and then covered. So it stops the, you know, the fire. And this is the experiment about 2-hour fire-related test, and it's passed. So now we can build a 2-hour fire-related permission we can get. Then if so, we can have a 14-story wood building in Japan, according to the regulation. So we did some experiments in Miyagi Prefecture, again, Ishinomaki. And this one is just regular plywood. But this one is sort of treated, you know, plywood. And this one burns within 9 minutes, burned down. And this one is more than 1 hour. Basically, it's some part is just a, you know, charcoal, you know, charred here. But the second floor, nothing happens. So it's a really nice technology, and I would like to apply this one to just houses. If possible, of course, you know, we would like to apply this house, you know, non-flammable. Still very expensive, but maybe the price is, you know, coming down if we use it a lot. So we just decided to design like a 14-story building made in wood, or this one or this one. And then basically it's a core and a shell structure. This is a similar system here. It's like a notch stuff, and then some other, you know, joint system we applied. So I think maybe, of course, it's not so easy, but if we apply this joint system, maybe we can have some new wood building, not only just a house, but the building like this. So this is the core structure. It's about 200 millimeter thick LVL. And then make a core, and then put some wall, and then, you know, floor. This is the core, and then we have some structure wall here. So this is the way, and we just sort of designed the plan. Okay, then this is the sort of a short video, the similar system, and then first we make a core. As you know, we have Olympic Games 2020. It's a wonderful thing, but we have to build many, many things. And for the athletes' camp, this type of house, you know, is fantastic. You know, if you can build in wood in Japan. So we just would like to promote this technology to the government and then municipality in Japan. And if we can really use a lot of trees, that would be fantastic, you know, because now more than 70% of the area is covered by tree in Japan, but all now nobody can use. So in this case, the wood itself is still expensive, but if we can use as a structure, it's at 200, you know, thick, and also finish of interior. And if you can use this finish as exterior too, maybe a little bit cheaper than concrete building or steel building. Because if you use a steel building, you have to have many substructures and also many finishes. And then many different companies come and then construct. But this one is basically made in wood. So I try to just promote this technology, and we just started to communicate with many people. Again, we just have a show of this technology. So our students joined to build some shelf, and again, very exhausted. But they constructed this one in 1 day. It's fantastic, you know. Oh, he is the engineer, you know, who invented non-flammable wood. And he is the guy coming from this engineer wood company. So we all get together and then work together. And we had a show like this using LVL. I'm sorry, this is plywood. And then this is the building which we designed. And this is the real thing, 200 mm thick, you know, LVL. So this is the joint. So it's quite heavy, I'm sorry, quite stiff, but it's not heavy because it's made in wood. Okay, I just have to stop my presentation. But I just would like to thank you all, because this is a wonderful moment for me to convey our ideas to you. And also, these days, I myself still thinking that how to make the gap between the building and myself closer. And this way, maybe, is the way to understand, how to make it happen. And just I would like to ask you to just instruct me any ways, which is pretty helpful. And that's almost the last word for me. Thank you very much.